Hello, you lovely, lovely people. I have to keep turning this phone around for the main camera because the selfie camera, it doesn't. It's not like sort of anti-shake, so I have to keep turning it around like for this one, so it's better quality video. Anyway, uh, kind of expats going broke and becoming homeless. And it's not just here in the Philippines; it's all over the place. Because it's so easy to to go broke. It's like a lot of people think, well, well, how can you get in that situation? Well, you can get caught up in the moment. Um, with the girl that you're with, and things can turn sour, very quickly. And then we do. I mean, when I first came here, and I was with this girl. And I explained it, in a video, and like I was scammed. The house, the shop that we had made, and all that went with it. And I was scammed, so I lost a lot of money. But luckily, I had an income, so I could generate more money. Now, a lot of people come here, and it is a lot of people. You'd be surprised. They come here with a certain amount of money. Maybe they have retired early, or they've come here on a limited budget, and they just get caught up in the moment like I did. As I said, luckily for me, I had an income, so I was still earning money every month, or every 2 weeks I was earning money, so I was able to replenish the finances. But many foreigners aren't able to do that, and we can easily become like the guy that what's his name, Paul. He's got a like a YouTube channel, and he openly talks about it. And I was looking at one of his videos, I think 4 or 5 days ago, and he's actually gonna go to immigration because he hasn't been paying his visa. He hasn't got no money. His passport has expired, and he's gonna face up to it. But it happened to him. He wasn't scammed. He bought a house. Maybe he wasn't thinking properly because he had no income. So the money that he had when he come over here, when that was when it was spent, that was it. I don't know what he was thinking, but he might have had reasons to be doing what he's doing. I really don't know, but he speaks quite openly about it. And we've got to think here, and I've said it in previous videos, we do get caught up in the moment, in the dream. And a lot of us are proud people, meaning, once we've done it and we've spent the money and we broke, we don't want to go back because of the losing face. We talk about the Filipinos, or the Filipinos losing face. We don't want to lose face either. And I mean, by going back to our countries, with nothing, and friends and family saying, "I told you so. I told you, it wasn't a good idea." So a lot of us end up in shit street, to be fair. And it's not, we can't, it's easy to blame ourselves. It's easy to blame ourselves, but we've got to look at the bigger picture and think outside of the box. And it's all easy and kind of after the event when you think, "Oh, why did I do that?" But when you're caught up in something, and you might, well, you probably do, like I love, the girl that you're with, and you building a house, or you're doing this, or you're investing in a lot of businesses here. That is very difficult to do, people. It's very difficult here to invest in a business that can earn money. Some of us do. Some foreigners here are very successful at it. But I think to invest in a business, you've got to have that money to lose. So you can't like sort of invest that money that you can't afford to lose, hoping that it's going to generate you an income. Because 9 times out of 10, it probably won't. I'm no expert on this. I've just seen it. Like my British friend, who I think I spoke about in the previous video, I think, or the video before. He come over here with a lot of money. He had no pension, and he didn't build a house, but he invested in a lot of businesses. One was a meat shop. The other one was it was a stupid thing. He invested in a little bar. He was paying rent every month, and he had a videoke machine or a karaoke machine. And I didn't really know him then. I'd seen him a few times on the street, and one time I thought I'd stop because I heard the videoke, and there was like 2 or 3 people in there, and Filipinos, and they were drinking Tanduay. Well, Tanduay is very cheap, and you only need 1 bottle to get you hammered. So he certainly wasn't making money from selling alcohol like San Miguel, Red Horse, and so forth. And he wasn't making a lot of money out of the videoke, because you got to think of how much it costs for the electricity, then the rent that he was paying. So that went Pete Tong, and he lost a lot of money in that. He lost a lot of money in the meat shop because he was relying on his girlfriend's family to run it. Like I've said, if you're going to do a business here, you've got to be hands-on. You've got to be prepared to be there all the time, to oversee it, because no matter how well you think or how good of a relationship you have, most people who are not, they haven't got any any interests sort of in your business, they won't treat it as that. So they will not treat it as you would. In other words, they would be like a laxy daisy. So you've got to be hands-on if you want to make a successful business here. And I think about it and I think, what can I do? What can I do? And to be honest with you, after being here for 8 years, I can't think of anything for me that would be successful. I just can't. Because everything that we would think of doing, and it could be successful, someone will open up exactly the same thing as you're doing. It could be next door. It could be 2 or 3 doors away, because that's what they do here. They see what's successful and they will image it. They will clone what you're doing. So don't come here thinking that you're going to have a successful business, and certainly don't lend money here. Certainly don't be one of these people who do that 5-6, because there is a few foreigners that do it, where their partners might say, we can lend money, and then we get back whatever it is, at the end of the month. And some of these loan sharks, as I call them, they even take the ATM card from the person who they've lent money to, and at the end of the month they go to the ATM when they've been paid with the person, take off their money, and then they give them back the ATM. That's terrible. It's highly illegal, and you could end up in a lot of trouble. Like the Indian guy, was a few months ago, he was shot, and he was a money lender. So don't get involved in these like illicit businesses. It's just going to bring you a whole lot of trouble. Come here, and this is just me saying this because of experience that's happened to me. When I first come here, I bought a house. I did. Stupid me. I bought the house. I didn't get on with the girl in the end, so I left. As you all know, who's been following me. So my advice, I was looking at the chickens out the front. And so then I rented. And even, when I've been with my wife now, we first got together, I rented for a few years, before we actually decided to buy some land and build a house. So I didn't rush into it a second time. I kind of thought about it, and then, when my wife got pregnant, I thought, right, I've got to do something now. I can't keep living in a rented accommodation and giving the landlord dead money every month. So I thought I'd, you know, we buy this bit of land and we build a house. But many foreigners think it's a bad idea, and it can be a bad idea. There is no question about that. But for me, it's a good idea all around because it's for my son. So this will end up as my wife and sons, and when she's my son. What happens after I'm dead and gone, I don't know. But I've also got to think what I can leave my wife, because it's okay having the house, but if you haven't got anything to eat and you haven't got no food, what you're going to do? You can't eat the house. So I've got to think of that, and setting up like a trust fund for Kaylin and something for Mira as well. Now, getting back to foreigners going broke here and ending up homeless, it's not as uncommon as you think. You've only got to look in these big cities, like when me and my wife was in Cebu. There was a couple of homeless foreigners, and we was only there for a few days, and we only went literally 2 or 3 blocks away from the hotel we were staying at. And yeah, sure enough, in the evening, we saw 2 foreigners who was homeless. They didn't speak English, so I think they weren't from like an English-speaking country, maybe Germany or somewhere like that. I don't know. And there was a guy here in Dipolog. He's dead now, but he was homeless, and he was in a shopping mall, Lee Plaza, begging off the Filipinos. And the Filipinos, bless their hearts, they were giving him money, probably money that they couldn't afford to give themselves, but they were still helping him. And that was when I first came here, and I thought, my God, what's going on here? Like a homeless person. And I didn't know that his wife lived very close to where we are here, and that's how I know about him. But he got involved with the gang, and he got involved in the the bad chemical drug here, and he got like addicted to that. And he had a pension, but he used to spend it on like the addiction that he had. So everything that he did, he brought it like upon himself, in my opinion. But he died not too long ago, I think a couple of years ago, less than that. He died. But like I said, it's very easy to come here with the dream and then coming unstuck. And of course, when you come unstuck and you haven't got no finances, the first thing you're probably going to do is you're going to let your visa lapse. And then you're just going to get worse and worse into trouble, because once you let 2 or 3, 4 months go, then you've got your fines to pay. Then you've still got to pay the the visa extensions that you didn't pay. You've still got to pay that as well. It's common sense, people, but I know when you're in love and you can do some crazy things, and you think, oh, I'll sort that next month, I'll sort it next month. And of course, if you haven't got no finances, and that's money's very hard to find here. You got to think that it's not like in our country where we can find something to do to generate a bit of money. Here, it's almost impossible for us to do that. Filipinos can do it, but then they only need a little bit of money. Some of them, just to be able to survive and buy, their food for the day. But we can't do that. Me, certainly. I mean, I can't live like or eat the food that my wife can eat, and she can eat almost anything, because she's been brought up on it. That's that's in her blood. That's in her DNA, because her mother did it. Her grandmother's done all that all their life, so she was brought up on that. Now we can't, or I can't. I've tried some of the things, and it's just not for me. It's Kangkong, I've tried that. The Chinese Kangkong, that's okay. But the other stuff like kamote tops and that she eats, and what's it called? This big leaf that looks like an elephant's ear. I can't remember what they call that. But my wife can eat all that, and ginamos and things. See, I can't. So I need money to be able to buy the food that I enjoy, and it's not cheap. you know, a lot of people have this false information, if you like, or this image where you come into like a developing country and it's going to cost you next to nothing to live. Once you've been here for a while and you know how to cut some corners, then it is. But like if you're like a freshman and you come in here, you'd be renting, and you could be renting for a lot more than what you should be paying in a place. You don't know which shops to go to for the cheapest, just for you. So you got to think about all this. It's not a cheap place to live like it was when I first come here 8 years ago. This was a damn cheap place to live. But now, not so much. The inflation and everything like that. So it's not as cheap as some people may think. The only thing that really is cheap here, and it's still cheap now, is buying land. And building a house is cheap. But then, like, a lot of you don't want to do that. And I can understand that. I've a maximum respect for the people who don't do that. If you've got no reason to do it, then don't do it. Because you can spend a lot of money very quickly doing it, and then obviously if it goes wrong, then you've lost that money. Because don't forget here, people, as well, if you have any issues, the law is not in your favour. It's really not. And I don't like saying it, but it's true. So if you get yourself in a bit of trouble here with your Filipina, although you've spent all of the money buying the land and building the house, you might get some of it back. I don't know, but you'll not get a lot of it back. And then you've got the risk of upsetting everybody and causing bad feeling. And don't forget, we foreigners here, so we will never be part of this gang here. We will always be outsiders. Have a look out there, look. Nice. The rain stopped now. The rain stopped. So, we will always be outsiders here. Like it or not, that's the way it is. We will never be part of the gang. And, blood's thicker than water everywhere. And families here stick together. And a lot of it is as well, when you build a house here, okay, or when you do a business here as well, for that matter, don't forget, not all, but most of the family from your Filipina will be thinking of the future, thinking, well, the house is built. Now, they will be thinking when they can move in, not when you're here or when you're alive, but after that. So they are always encouraging. And also, your Filipina will probably have uncles, cousins who claim to own land. I've said this before. Try not to buy land from family or your Filipinas friends. Buy it from like a legitimate place with clean titles, with all the paperwork up to date and the land taxes, and it's been surveyed. Try and do that, because if you don't, the chances are you're going to end up in trouble somewhere down the line. It happens so much in the Philippines, people. It really does. It happens more than it doesn't. Put it that way. It happens more than it doesn't. And there is a good company called JRC, and JRC Visa Consultants and Real Estate. Now, they were the ones who got my 13A, my probationary 13A, and then I went for my permanent, and they did all of it. Brilliant company. They really are. They charge, of course they charge. They charge for the service, and they charge for the know-how. They know the people. They know what the immigration want to hear and things like that when they do these applications for you. And now he's gone into real estate, and you can give them a phone call. I think they give you like a free 30-minute consultation or something like that. But they will tell you if it's good, if it's bad, what to look out for. So the money that you will pay them for their service would probably save you a heck of a lot of headaches and money in the future. That's just one company, and that's the company I used. And I'm just saying that because it's well worth considering getting an agency, like a credible and a reputable agency, and registered as well, that can do this for you. It's very important, people, really, very important. because your dream that you had can quickly turn into a whole load of problems, a whole load of headaches, and that's the last thing we want. We want to make everything coming here, like the transition of coming here from your country to the Philippines, as smooth and as sweet as possible. And no matter how much we try, sometimes it's not our fault that it doesn't. Unfortunately, some Filipinos are just out for something that they can get. But on the bright side, there's probably more that don't. And they are a very loving people. When you get a good one, it's the same as any country. When you get a good one, you get a good one. But they far few and in between. But here, I think there is more here than in your own country. And they are very loving here because of their traditions and everything like that. But don't go broke here, people. Don't rush into things. Rent for a while first and see if it's going to be good for you with the Filipino that you're with if you did invest. And visas as well. I'm too young for an SRRV. If you get that SRRV, then you aren't relying upon your wife to be your sponsor sort of thing, because all the time you're on a 13A, you've got that 13A permanent residence visa through your wife. Now, like, if you break up, you lose that, then you've got to go back to tourist. Or if she dies. But there is something now where it's changing. It's becoming more modern. So for me, because I got a son here, if my wife died, I would still be allowed to stay here on my visa that I have, my 13A, because I'm bringing up my son. And it's going to change eventually, where these 13A visas, if you did split up, you'd probably be able to stay here on your 13A eventually. But at the moment, not yet. He's my little boy. Look. Say hello. Hello, friends. What's the matter? What are you looking for? What do you want? Anyway, people, that being said, I'm going to go now. And thank you for always supporting the channel. And thank you because, without you guys, this channel is nothing. And I do really appreciate their support that you give by watching and subscribing. Like a big shout out to all of you guys. And again, thank you so much. Take good care. It's Friday, I think. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye, people. Where's my boy gone? Where's he gone? Oh, there he is, look. There he is. Bye-bye, people. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.